Hello, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Y, where we discuss how to be efficient in using electronic medical records and how to improve our performance to cut back the time that we lose in either documentation or dealing with the EMR or doing anything within the office that distracts us from what we want to do, whether it be taking care of our patients or having a good life and work balance. Last two times we talked about the macros. We talked about how to make them, how to save them, and how to use them, both in the outpatient electronic medical record and in the software for dictation called Dragon. Today we're going to see another example of creating macros, but this time it pertains to the inpatient world and where it pertains to Cerner, which is a software that we use for inpatient documentation. So let's get started. To create macros in Cerner, you first need to click on this icon that is pointed out by the red arrow, which is called Manage AutoText. One good thing about Cerner is when you hover with your mouse over any icon or any small symbol, you can see the abbreviation or where it takes you. So this one is called Manage AutoText. It's at the top of the page, and when you click on it, then it opens up this window where you can add new macros from the left side. Also, this same window gives you all the list of macros that you have already created in case you want to edit one of them or change it. Then this is the important slide, because here we see how we create a macro. And you will notice that the process is very similar to the macros we have created in the past on ECW and on the Dragon software. And it will be the same process if you want to create macros on any other EMR or even some other apps like Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint or whatever it is. So here let's see what we need to do. Number one, we need to choose an abbreviation for the macro. Now here, like we did in ECW, we have to choose a sign or a symbol that will be used for all of our macros. And for this one, we chose the plus sign. Now obviously you can choose any sign that will be unique to you. But when I put here the plus sign and afterwards I put in PE, which is short for physical exam, that tells me what the macro is and what it does for me. When I put in the description, which is the one text that is marked in blue, that tells me what exactly is included in that macro, what it stands for and what its function is. Number three, the text of the macro itself or the content of the macro. Again, few things to remember. We have to make it as thorough, complete, and neat as possible, but at the same time, we try to avoid things that would trip us up in the future if we are trying to post it, so that we don't have to edit a lot of things, a lot of contents inside the macro itself, but it would post as a unit. And finally, don't forget at the bottom of the page to save, and don't exit out without you save the macros so that it takes effect. On the next slide, we see here how we edit the macro, and that happens from the main menu of Manage AutoText, where you click on the macro, and we see it here highlighted in blue on the left side. And once you do that, then you click the Edit button, which, as you can see, is marked by a green rectangle on the top, and you can change everything that you want to change. Finally, you click Save so that it takes effect. Now, there are some advantages of the macros that are created in Cerner versus the ones that are created in ECW. One thing is the list is pulled. What I mean by this is that you don't have to open a new window in order to look at the macros and select one of them to put in the respective sections of the chart like you would in ECW. Here, for example, as you can see, I put the cursor under the physical exam, and we click the symbol that we've chosen for all the macros, which is the plus sign, and as soon as I put in the plus sign, it opened up all the list of possible macros. So in a way, it reminds me of what macros I have available to choose from. And then I can scroll down to the one that I want and just click on it and paste it there. The other advantage that we see here is something called click and go. Now, I hope to make other videos about EMRs in general, how to select a good EMR. There is no perfect EMR, and if things continue the same way in healthcare, there will never be a perfect or an excellent EMR for reasons that go beyond this discussion. However, the good EMR would have something called a feature called click and go. And by click and go, it means that you don't have to keep on opening windows in order to document in different sections. You just have to put in your cursor at a different window and just put in the text that you want to document. Now, Cerner has that feature. Now, don't get me wrong, it has other things that are not user-friendly, but this part they got right. And click and go means that you can put your text anywhere you can get a cursor. You can also put your macros anywhere that you can get a cursor. As you can see here, we put it in the physical exam because we want to document the macro of physical exam. However, those macros can be utilized in any section of the chart. Whatever you can get a cursor to put in and put in your symbol, then you can put the corresponding macro that you want, regardless of what section of the chart you are in. And be careful to edit your text. Now, when I say edit, I want to eliminate any confusion that may be happening. So we talked about how to edit your macros initially, and what that means is if you are changing the content of the macro, you go to the list, you pull up that macro, you change it as you see fit, and then you save. That's one meaning of the word to edit. But there is another meaning of the word to edit, which is to edit the text, not to edit the macro, but to edit the text that you are putting in. So what I mean here, for example, is after you've posted already your macro and it printed or posted that block of text in the corresponding section, as you can see here in physical exam, but you need to modify it, is what I mean, by going into the respective sections of that physical exam or respective sentences included in that physical exam and changing it as pertains to each individual patient. For example, here the macro says that cardiac exam is normal S1, S2, no murmurs or gallops. But what if the patient had a murmur on the base of the heart? Well, in that case, you have to edit in the meaning of, or in the sense of modifying the text that you put in physical exam. After you've posted your macro, you go back to cardiac, you put the cursor at cardiac, and then you change that normal S1, S2, and make it instead ejection systolic murmur on the base of the heart, 3/6, or whatever you want to document in that specific line. And then this note will be reflective of what each individual patient has.